The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Moon Tower Soccer. This week, we have an interview with Brad Stuver. We're going to answer some listener questions, and we're going to cover a little Austin FC news. And Mark Rogondino from Apple TV will join us for this weekend's game preview. I am Mike Cragnola, and I am joined, as always, on the Moon Tower Show by Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey, everybody, I'm Jeremiah Bentley. And Mike, you're apparently running on fumes. Do you want to share if you had a long couple days, buddy?
Yeah, so things are kind of crazy in the Cragnola household. I do not recommend getting kidney stones.
Gosh.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers for the Cragnola household, please and thank you.
Absolutely. We mentioned this last week. We have more details now. So on Wednesday the 27th, Wednesday the 26th. Sorry, I got my days all confused. From 7 to 9 p.m., Landon and I are going to be hosting a soccer trivia night, which we are going to make more than just a soccer trivia night. One of the things we've been discussing with the other folks planning this today is like, this is not just going to be about stats and numbers, but we're going to have culture. I'm gonna ask the Cragnolas for like one round of Swoon Towery kind of content for sure for this. So if you're listening to this show, you probably get the soccer part, but we're also going to like make this a little bit fun and a little bit crazy. And so that will be from 7 to 9, sign-ups at 6 on Wednesday the 26th. We'll keep posting about it, but it should be a good time, and we would love to see y'all there, as long as the kidney stone gods allow it to be true.
Yeah, we are on our own IR right now. We will see how this works out. But yeah, so this week y'all got to talk to the one and the only hashtag Brad Stuver for president, but also MLS All-Star. The very easy to use hashtag campaign that has definitely been driving a lot of his votes, right?
Yeah, you can see, because he's really killing it in terms of all-star votes, right? It's too bad. I mean, I don't know that I ever felt like he just doesn't seem to have the notoriety in the rest of the league to be a guy that's going to be in on fan votes, unless Austin just does a magnificent job of stuffing the ballot box, which apparently hasn't happened. Hopefully, his underlying numbers are good, and there's the chance that we get like a coach's selection. So I guess we will find out very soon. Is it on the 11th, or is it on? I think it's on the 11th. Is that when the results are announced? It's either the 11th or 12th.
I know I can only vote from incognito mode another 3 or 4 times tonight, and they will not allow me to vote tomorrow. But I have been doing my part.
So I think we find out on the 11th. So in this interview, we're going to ask Brad about whether it's his year to be an all-star, and Brad of the past was hoping for it, and we'll see what Brad of the future finds out when the show actually airs. But yeah, it was a fun interview. He's a super good dude. Talks about a lot of tactical things, a lot of changes, a lot of things about the way it changes the way Austin plays. I'm hoping you've listened to it by now. Like, is there anything else that we should tease, or you just want to roll into the interview?
Once I edit it, I will probably have something to put in here, but I'm not going to go back in this segment and put something else in. So yeah, I think we should just go into it. I'll hear it for the first time with you.
All right, we are thrilled to be joined once again by Brad Stuver. Brad, thanks so much for joining us. I think it's 4 years in a row, I think, that we've had you on the show. Glad to have you again.
Thanks for having me. Keeping the streak alive.
We always make the joke that we went after you first. We're like, they'll give us the backup goalkeeper, right?
It worked out well.
Yeah, it worked out great for all of us, I think.
You've been the backup goalkeeper for Austin FC for 4 years running now. So you guys are coming off a pretty heavy week going into an international break. I guess my first question is, how much of a break are y'all actually getting during this international break?
Yeah, I mean, after half a season now, it's good for the guys to get away. We're going to get some time this week to get away with our families, kind of recharge our minds, recharge our bodies. The coaches have been extremely gracious in allowing us some time to get out of market if we want, or just kind of jet around Austin. So guys are kind of doing what they think is best, and we're going to be coming back recharged, ready to go for the next stretch of games after the international break. One
thing that I think we've noticed this year with the team is a a bit more defensive resilience. I know that there's been some changes in the defensive shape. Y'all are maybe not pressing as aggressively as you have in years past. How does that affect your game as a goalkeeper?
Yeah, we've talked since preseason about being a better defensive team. We've talked about setting our line of confrontation a little bit lower so we're not in a high press mode all of the time. We saw last year that over the course of an entire season, it was a little bit unsustainable. So going into this year, we wanted to eliminate more transition for the other team. And we know that it takes a lot to break down a really organized group. So that's something that we've really focused on. And for half a season, I think we've done extremely well. There have been hiccups along the way, but we're excited about where we are in the standings, and we're excited about the growth and the progress that we've made since last year.
And then also, I think, particularly at home, it seems like, and you can tell me if we're wrong here, that the Austin's played a little bit more directly on the offensive side of the ball. Does that change how you play, like out of the back from your spot, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it gives a little bit different, a different option for our backline guys and me especially. We know teams know that we want to play out of the back. A lot of times early in our existence, we wanted to play out of the back, hell or high water, and we try to make those like tiki-taka passes out of the back. And as we've grown and as opponents have started to kind of see what we do, and as we've added different pieces like uh, Obi on the wings and Diego Rubio and Jossie, like these are type of guys that we can play into and knock down or play in behind on space. So for me, it's just seeing all the options, knowing that teams are going to want to press us because they know that we want to play out of the back, and being able to go a little bit more direct can kind of catch them a little bit off guard because they're not used to Austin FC doing that as much.
I've noticed that on when y'all are defending set pieces on your end, mostly corners, and you make a save, oftentimes you'll be looking for that direct throw. Are you going to get an assist this year, Brad?
We'll see. I hope so. I mean, you even saw last game, there was a defensive set piece and we're on the break and Danny finds Obi scores and gets called back and whatever. But you can see that that's something that we've put a priority on throughout the year. And Jason has done an extremely good job of kind of getting us organized going into the games and putting a priority on if we do win that ball securely, that guys are on their like they're on their bike, they're heading out, they want to go score a goal in transition. So a bird just ran into the window. All three of us just kind of looked at the window as this bird just slammed into it.
We'll keep that bird in our thoughts and prayers.
It flew away, so it's out there.
Okay, good. We've noticed you guys have had a lot more stability at center back this year. I know last year we were scrambling to even find someone who could play in that position. This year, a lot deeper, several guys who could step in and seem to be staying at an equal level as you swap pieces in and out. How has that affected your play? And like, I guess, how much peace does that give you to have some more stability in front of you there?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, we have four natural center backs that have all contributed minutes throughout the year, and all of them bring a little bit something different to the squad. But I think all of them have stepped in and given us exactly what we need when they need it. And for me, it's just getting chemistry with all the guys, and no matter who comes in, just kind of knowing the tendencies of each guy and being able to kind of play on their play on their tendencies and play on their skill set. So for me, it's just knowing each one and knowing what they're going to do. And so it's just tweaking little things based on personnel that we have in front. But it's been great to have four natural center backs in front, and they've all been at a really high level this year.
Can you speak specifically a little about Brendan Hines-Ike? I know he's been kind of a breakout this year, and a guy that, frankly, probably a lot of Austin fans didn't know about and probably hadn't really tracked his career. And like I knew who he was, but I still did not expect him to come in and play as big of a role as he has this year. What has he been like to have in the team this season?
Yeah, Brendan's been great. I think from day one, he's come in and he's adapted to the way that we want to play extremely well. Obviously, learning this system is extremely difficult, but he's taken it head on and has been growing day by day. And he's done extremely well throughout the year. He's gotten unlucky in the past two games, but for us, just having Brendan, a guy that's capable of breaking lines with his passes, a guy that's willing to get into the attack if it's needed. He really understands the role. He understands what is expected of him, and he's been extremely good for us.
Yeah, I was going to go back to right before the bird attack. You said the name Jason, and I'm assuming you're referring to Jason Grubb, the new set piece coach, which is a new role, right? So, like, I would be interested to see how you interact with him, and then maybe how you interact with Preston, and kind of what that looks like, and what that's added to the team this year.
Yeah, so Jason Grubb joined us from Austin FC2. He was the goalkeeper coach slash assistant coach last year for Austin FC2. He joined the first team squad this year as a set piece coach, but he's also kind of like a second goalkeeper coach with us. So him and Preston work extremely close day to day. Preston is still helping out with the set pieces, but they kind of bounce ideas off of each other, and they really kind of find tendencies. They try and see the personnel that we have, the way that we want to defend. And I mean, it's been really good. I think it's been good to have an extra set of eyes. And Jason is really good at analyzing what is needed in attacking and defensive. And we've put a big priority on it this year. And I think it's paying off on both ends.
Looking at the I guess any set piece, but mostly on the corner kicks, we'll notice that Austin has had more like set plays running instead of just get everyone in the box, put it onto the penalty spot and see what you can get. It's organized set plays. As a goalkeeper, I mean, you hear different opinions on whether or not you should try to get cute with it or you should just get as many bodies in there as you can and get ahead on the ball. As a goalkeeper defending that kind of stuff, like how do you look at those kinds of things?
Yeah, it's difficult as a goalkeeper. A lot of these teams have extremely good servers on the ball that are able to whip a really good ball in on top of you. There are teams that'll crowd the goalkeeper and just try and put as many bodies on him as possible to make it extremely difficult. I think for us, we try and analyze the weaknesses in the opponent and just kind of see where the space is, where their goals are being given up, all these type of things. We also have to analyze like the personnel on the field. We need to know if we're going to be more of a combination team or a heading team. We're not the biggest squad. So for us, it's all about kind of utilizing what we have and trying to figure out what's the best way. But for me, defensively, our structure has been extremely sound and guys are buying into their role and making me feel extremely comfortable when we're going up against any type of corner.
Well, you have a new teammate, maybe part of the goalkeepers union this year, Stephen Cleveland. So fairly accomplished player. Like, are you able to like learn from him and bounce ideas off him, or what's it like to have somebody like that on the team?
Yeah, Steph's been great. I mean, he was in Seattle for a long time. Obviously, the goalkeeper union, we've known each other in passing for a while. Uh, Great guy to have in the locker room. Has been great to have in the goalkeeper core. It's been good. I mean, been very fortunate here at Austin to have such a good goalkeeping core since the very beginning. And every goalkeeper kind of has a different outlook on things. And it's always good to bounce ideas, bounce different training aspects, and just kind of talk through different plays because everybody sees the game a little bit differently. So it's been nice to integrate him into the team, and he's been doing extremely well, playing well, training well. So it's been good to have him here.
Speaking of other keepers, have you heard anything from Damien over in Louisville?
Yeah, me and Damien have a running text message thread going right now. Send each other good luck on game days and talk about some plays that go on in the games. But yeah, overall, we're keeping an eye on him out there in Louisville. They're doing extremely well, sitting in first place, and Damien's basically played all but I think one game. So looking good. He's playing well. So happy for him.
Does he give you a hard time about having green techs like everybody else?
No, I think he's afraid of me. I don't think he wants to give me these young guys, they don't want to irritate the old man.
The old man on his Android. Uh, we talked a little bit about this last week. Frankly, like honestly, just a tough week for you guys, I'm sure. Like having the result at home not go your way, and then the just really awful experience in Salt Lake, I can imagine. How do you bounce back from that? And especially going into a long week where I imagine you would have preferred to finish this stretch and go into the break on a higher note. What do you guys do to regroup in this moment?
Yeah, right now I mean, it's going to be a tough lesson to learn from these last two games. Obviously, we don't go into the international break with the results, like the previous results being what we wanted, but we're going to reflect on the entire first half of the season. I mean, we're 17 games in. We're going to look back and we're sitting in sixth place in the Western Conference. I think if you told our group and if you told the fan base that we'd be sitting in a spot halfway through the year, I think everybody would be pretty excited about that, coming off of what we did last year. So we know that it's a tough task ahead. So for us during this break, it's just about recharging the brain, recharging the body, just trying to put these past couple games behind us, using it as fuel so that when we come out of this break, that we're kind of firing on all cylinders. Ethan today in our team meeting kind of brought up 2022. We had a similar experience where we went into the international break in the summer against LA Galaxy. We lost 4-1 away from home. And then we came back, and during the international break, we had a friendly against I want to say a Mexican side. I forget who we played. And we got rocked like 4-0 again during that time. But then we went on an 8-game unbeaten streak. And he even talked about last year, one of our best stretches was in the summer. So for us, knowing that we've done this before, we've been in this situation, and this is the time where we can make a little run and solidify a spot in the playoffs. And for us, it's just putting the first season or putting the first half of the season to bed, and knowing that we have half a season left to achieve our goal at the end of the year.
And I know that there's been two players who had been rumored to be joining the team for a while. We got both of those official over the last couple of weeks in Osman Bukhari and Mikhail Dessler. I guess, like, how much do you guys talk or think about the new guys coming in at this point? Is it at all, or do you guys kind of just ignore that until they're actually here in town and kind of focus on what you have at the moment?
I mean, we'll reach out, we'll say welcome. We're happy to have them join in the Austin FC family, but until they're here, until they're in training, there's not much we can do. And I'm happy that they joined the team and excited to see what they can bring to the squad. But until they get into training, until we can get them up to speed, we're not really too focused on it, because we have the group that we have, and we have to run that until the window opens.
Well, I know you're not an immigration attorney or a visa processor, but like what, while that's, are there anything that they can do? Like while that's pending, like, do they get playbooks? Like, can they come in before the season, before July 18th, and like do some workouts with the team, or how does that integration work? Because you've had enough summers where we've had players come in abroad. I figure you have some experience with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure once they're signed with the team, they can come and train. As soon as they get their visas and all that stuff. But I don't think I think we have to wait until, I think the date is July 18th, I think is when the official international window opens, and that paperwork goes through MLS. So they're not available for selection for match days until that date. But I'm pretty sure they can come. But I know Osman, he's with Ghana. So I know these guys will come in, whether they're taking a holiday, whether they're with international guys, but our scouts and stuff are sending them video, and I'm sure Josh and Rhoda are talking to them about tactics and whatnot, so that they kind of have a understanding of what they're getting into when they get here. But when they get here, hopefully that's a quick process, and they can get here before that July 18th date, and they can integrate it into training. That would be great. So we'll see.
Well, I'll go. So I got my email from you yesterday on your May wrap up for your new like online community, which I'm sure you personally spent hours poring over. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but like talk about that, sort of what the motivation behind that was. Like, it's pretty new. I love seeing the stuff, but like, what are you trying to do with that project?
Yeah, I think in the off season we just started kind of messing around with some things, trying to keep the website updated with different events that we're doing throughout the community, different appearances, kind of all these like games, with the wrap ups or the monthly emails. I just kind of want to send out email blasts, kind of recapping each month. I want to give another platform to the nonprofits that we're working with. Obviously, we can highlight the soccer as well. But for me, it was just something where uh, just another way to reach out and uh, connect with people. Obviously, social media is social media, but like emails, all these different type of things, broadcast channels, all different ways just to try and connect and stay as involved with the community as possible.
And do you have any community partnerships you want to highlight just while we have you that are maybe new or emerging?
Um, I don't know.
You've got the laundry project as always,
I would
right?
say
Always, yeah.
project as always. The next one is in July. I forget the date. I think it's the second weekend in July. Quality Texas, it's Pride Month, so it's a busy month. Working with Siete this year. Just signed a deal with them to try and be a Siete ambassador. So
Nice.
go out, buy all the local Austin goodies.
I'm a big Siete fan.
Same. Our house is loaded with it. So
Brad, I think this has been on the minds of a lot of people here lately as All-Star voting opened last week. Is this the year that you make the MLS All-Star team?
I hope so. I mean, I've been on the cusp of it a couple years now. I've been in the discussion, and I hope this year, despite the recent results and last game, like I hope that what I did in the 17 games resonates with people and shows just kind of the work that we've put in, the work that I put in the off season and the years prior. So I'm feeling good about where I'm at. Last game, not part of that. But like I said, it's a 17 game pool of data of results. So I'm hoping I can represent Austin and keep the tradition alive that Seb and John kind of got going here.
We have some of the MLS media machine on your side. I think Matt Doyle put you in his first selection. I think Joe Lowry put you in his first selection. And so you're getting recognized. People are noticing. I wanted to ask you though, like your numbers are better, kind of like the ghost stats and underlying numbers are looking good for you this season. The defense overall is looking good for you this season. Do you feel like you are actually playing better this season, or do you think a bit more defensive solidity in front of you is just highlighting the performances that you've been doing year over year, and that people aren't noticing maybe because the clean sheets weren't coming as regularly?
Yeah, I think it's a little combination of all of the above, right? Obviously, I think our defense has been doing extremely well. I think the 5 clean sheets this early in the year is definitely something that we touched on. I'm definitely feeling more confident with some of the saves that I'm making, but more so even just dealing with crosses, dealing with through balls, all these type of things that go into the way that we want to play. And I'm feeling pretty confident, and I feel like I'm learning from the previous years. Like this is my 4th year as a starter here in Austin, and as time has gone on, I've gotten a little bit more comfortable. I'm getting more comfortable with dealing with different situations because I've seen it before. So with goalkeepers, it's all about seeing as many chances and seeing as many actions as possible, because then you learn from it, and on the next one, you know that there are different ways to approach it. So I think as we go, I just want to maintain this level, and I want to keep going, helping this team make the playoffs at the end of the year. So hopefully that's being recognized. And obviously individual accolades aren't the primary goal at the beginning of the year, but it's always something that players welcome.
Well, I don't think we can interview you without talking about your mom, which in addition to being like your biggest fan, is maybe one of our biggest fans too. She's like the one person that for sure will like every single tweet about every show that we put out. So knowing that she's probably listening, is there anything you want to say to your mom?
Hi, Mom. I probably need to start calling you a little bit more often. I'm really bad at that. But also for my mom, you can text me. Always text Ashley because she always thinks that she's going to bother me. But she can text me. So
Well, I want to say something to your mom too, Leanne. I put your socks in the mail the other day, so they're on the way.
it's all the free stuff. It's crazy. I sent her home with like scarves and jersey and all this last time she was here.
She's an influencer, Brad.
Keepers rule.
Yeah, exactly.
Go follow.
All right. Well, I think that's all. We'll let you get on with your day. Brad, we really appreciate it. It's great as always.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FVF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FVF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment. Check it out whenever you get your podcast. And I was watching a clip today, and they were talking about superhero Spider-Man related injuries, and I didn't really follow it exactly. But if you also want superhero injury content, check out Summary Judgment.
You can go to fvf.law to find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case.
Moon Tower Soccer is also brought to you by Tony C's Pizza and Beer Garden, serving New York-style pizza, an authentic Italian, open in Round Rock in front of Del Diamond, and on Anderson Lane near Shoal Creek Boulevard.
The Anderson Lane Beer Garden is just 2 miles from Q2 Stadium. Stop by for pizza and a pint before all this year's home games. And with TVs on every wall, it's the perfect spot to watch all away games. We have written confirmation that they play all Austin FC games with sound on.
All right, I want to add the June promo items. There's 30 beers on tap featuring the Brewery of the Month, Twisted X, and their Italian Pils Brewissimo, I believe is how you would call that. So it's a joint brew. And their Pizza of the Month, the Quattro Formaggi, which is made with mozzarella, Fontina, Gorgonzola, and Parmesan, which is something the Bentleys will definitely be eating this weekend. Saw it on Instagram. It's a beautiful looking piece of pizza.
Yeah, there was an all caps text to the Moon Tower chat from Jeremiah that the Bentley boys have plans.
They do. You can also check out 2 for Tuesdays, 2 pizzas for the price of 1 every Tuesday, and Picture Perfect Thursdays, half price pitchers of beer every Thursday.
Yeah, dine in, pick up, lunch, and dinner at Tony C's Pizza and Beer Garden. Check them out online at https://www.tonycsbeergarden.com. I don't know why I read the HTTPS part. It's important to me that everyone knows that this is a secure website.
I love it.
All right, we are back. And Jeremiah, this is my first listener questions.
Oh, I'm excited about this, to do this with you. And I'm remembering from reading the first question that I meant to look the answer to this one up, and I did not do a very good job. So we collectively are going to answer Robert Reed's question. This is basic, but I feel like when I think I understand it, I don't. Explain offside in soccer, please.
Yeah, so do we want to go with like the official IFAB rule and we'll just read it out loud? Because I feel like that's what Landon would do, right?
Let's start there.
Okay. So a player is in an offside position if any part of the head, body, or feet is in the opponent's half, excluding the halfway line, and any part of the head, body, or feet is nearer to the opponent's goal line than both the ball and the second last opponent. The hands and arms of all players, including the goalkeepers, are not considered. For the purposes of determining offside, the upper boundary of the arm is in line with the bottom of the armpit. A player is not in an offside position if level with the second to last opponent or the last 2 opponents.
Okay. There's a lot to unpack.
And
there.
So that is the offside position. And so, you are, of course, it is not an offense to be offside, right? I can stand behind anybody I want to. When it becomes an offense is a massive list. And this, I don't think we should read all of, Jeremiah. We don't have enough time. But there's a lot.
Unless this becomes an offside call. I mean, isn't it more or less like it comes down like whether you're affecting the play or not. Or involved in the play or not, more or less.
Yeah, basically, if you are interfering with play by playing or touching a ball, interfering with an opponent by preventing an opponent from playing or being able to play the ball, challenging an opponent for the ball, or clearly attempting to play a ball which is close when this action impacts on an opponent, or making an obvious action which impacts clearly the ability of an opponent to play the ball. I don't know why they call these two things out twice, but they did in this list of rules. So ultimately, as long as you are not playing the ball or impacting other players' ability to play the ball when you are in that offside position, you're good. If you do either of those things, then you're bad.
And some of those things are very open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Especially the interfering with somebody's ability to play with a ball. Because that could be wide open.
We've seen that. We've seen a lot of that. Yeah, we've seen a lot of that in set pieces, especially this year for Austin FC. I vividly remember one where Brad Stuver was furious that these players were in an offside position, standing and blocking his ability to see the ball for a set piece goal. But it is what it is. I think the easiest way to explain offsides is in person with a pint. Like, everyone has a pint, and then you set up a soccer situation like on the table, and then you like use a paper football to like show when and where someone's offside. That's the most effective method I've ever had of demonstrating this rule. What about you?
I was going to say, the reason that I'm going to try to find this, but probably not for tomorrow. In 2021, Landon and I had the chance to do a live show at the W Hotel with Adrian Healy and Trevor Scott from CBS. And Adrian basically lined us up and in his very like authoritative British way explained offside, like using Trevor as the man offside and me as the last defender and Landon as the goalie. And it was beautiful because listening to Adrian Healy talk about soccer is just a treasure in and of itself. So if I can find that, I will send it to you, and maybe that will help Robert answer Robert's question.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest, I think, concepts for people new to the sport, or people who like generally follow along, but then like don't quite get it, right? And then you learn that you can be in a position that would otherwise be offside if you're in your own half, right? And it throws everything out through the window. Like, wait, I'm sorry.
That's
what?
the one I get lost on.
Yeah.
For sure.
The one where you're inside your own half, or when everyone is past the defender, but as long as you're behind the ball, you're safe. That's the one. Those are the two. Like, wait, what?
All right, you want to go on to the next one? This is a non-soccer question, so let's get to that one.
Yeah, this one is from ATX Bergkamp Lover 6969-420, who asks, which phrasing / grammatical / spelling error sets you off into an irrational fit of rage? Example, when people say, I could care less, instead of, I couldn't care less.
I used to have a lot of issue with people using the word literally, not literally, but it's become like so overdone. I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Honestly, none of these things can drive me into a fit of irrational rage, I think, at this point anymore, other than when people screw these things up, when they're calling people out for screwing other things like this up.
Yeah,
like, don't be smarmy and wrong.
Exactly. I don't mind if someone uses the wrong thing, as long as they're not being a pedant about someone else using the wrong thing. I think that's great. I used to get really upset about irregardless, and I have since touched grass, and now I don't care.
Now you don't care. My favorite one is when people, just back on this theme, is when people use penultimate but wrong, because it's a word that you need to understand the meaning of before you use it, because it has very limited usage. But then to like think you're sounding smart, and using it as like the last thing as opposed to the next to last thing is really bad.
To be fair to those people, I always have to double check myself when I want to use the former or the latter in an attempt to sound smart, right? So usually I default to the first one or the second one.
Right, which you
instead
can
of-
do.
Yeah. So much safer that way.
Yeah. How about David Ubel? This week we've seen how thin Austin is in the midfield. What kind of midfield signings would best prepare us for the rest of the season? Because we're probably talking about the attacking midfield here, right?
Are we?
I would think so. I mean, between
I don't
among.
know.
Sorry, see, look, I screwed up between and among. Oh my gosh, what a disaster! I was gonna say among Valencia, Ring, and Danny. I feel like we have those other two spots covered pretty well, and where Austin is paper thin is the attacking slot, and especially if we're having to use Danny up there. And we're going to get into the interview with Mark Rogondino about how reliant Austin is on Driussi. But so are you saying that it might not be attacking? Where would you fill? What kind of signing would you take to fill the slot?
Yeah, so I think between Danny, Owen Wolf, and Diego Rubio, we can cover over a Sebastian Driussi absence in an okay way. Obviously, we are not a good team without our captain, but I think between the three of them, they can like Voltron together to form an attacking band that might work. If we do that, now we've lost so much out of the ability to move the ball from defense into attacking. So like, because we know that's not a skill set that Johan Valencia possesses, right? And so to me, I think a really dominant number 6 allows us a lot more flexibility in the midfield shape and in the midfield makeup throughout the rest of the season. But, who knows? At this point, just some of these old contracts got to come off the books so that we can bring in fresh blood.
Yeah, in some way, at the signing, it's like anybody that can play minutes at above replacement level in the midfield is basically Austin FC's biggest need at this point in time. And it comes back to the thing we talk about a lot is, there's a lot of parts in the midfield and they're all incomplete players and they're all are not additive to each other, right? Their deficiencies all kind of play off each other as opposed to being able to cover each other up in the aggregate in the entire midfield.
Yeah, exactly. Like we have really talented we have really talented players in each position who are deficient in the ways that make that group worse. Sad. But I do agree with David's general supposition that a midfield signing would strengthen our team a lot.
Absolutely. More than a number 9?
No,
If you had to pick
nothing.
one?
Nothing more
Okay,
than a number
nothing
9.
more.
All I want, my kingdom for a striker who scores goals.
Never had that.
The next question comes from Elise, and it says, I'd be interested in a conversation around man management. Given whatever that game was, I assume we're talking about RSL. I've heard people often argue on both for and against Wolf as a man manager, i.e., he didn't get the players appropriately revved up for the game, or such and such player wasn't a fan of the coach, maybe, or, he got players to commit for the second half, or the locker room is really tight, so nothing leaks. There's a lot of kind of perception around Josh's man management skills, is I think what this is getting to, right? And so her question becomes, how do you evaluate if a coach is a good or bad man manager? What are the signs and symptoms? And where does Wolf fall so far?
That's the biggest question about the whole Huston FC project right now. So I'll go with my initial thoughts on that. In that, I don't see Josh Wolf as a guy who's going to make this club bigger than the sum of its parts, because I don't think he has the ability to reach every type of player and motivate everybody. I think if we had a team full of Boy Scouts who were all like bought into his system, he'd be a really good man manager of guys like that. But I don't think he deals with sort of ambiguity and controversy very well. Again, from like somebody who has no inside knowledge of the locker room and is just basing it upon like what I've seen on the field and with my eyes and on social media.
Yeah, I have always said that we've all seen what happens when a coach has lost a locker room from the player side of the perception, right? Like you see a player slip up in media availability. You see a player put something out on social media in the heat of a moment that like they shouldn't have. You see behavior from inside of the locker room that reflects an issue, right? And generally it goes along with a team not performing at the level that it should be. We don't have to look too far actually to see kind of what that might look like. If we look, 3 hours up 35, we see a FC Dallas team that on paper is stacked compared to ours, right? And when you look at where they're at in the table versus where we all thought they would be, we all thought this was a team gunning for top 4 in the West at the beginning of the year. And that is not the reality of that team, right? Like that to me signifies that maybe there's a man management issue going on. But yeah, I don't know. That's all, it's all Landon likes to use the term fan fiction, and that feels real in this case until we get a player that says, Josh Wolf is a garbage manager who treats us bad and doesn't let us listen to any of the songs we like. We're not going to know. Josh Wolf said no Bad Bunny in the locker room, and we hate him for it.
That would rightfully cause a revolt, I think. That makes sense. Yeah, but I mean that's a good point. We haven't seen that yet. So I mean, I'm a little bit coming in just from the like watching the USA get blown out and Greg Wolf talk about the players being failure. Greg Wolf, there you go. See Greg Berhalter. I'm a little bit also jaded by that, so I'm trying to separate my feelings about the two. So maybe I'll be wrong, but it's not like you're right. It's not a locker room and open revolt or anything where that's the issue. I think there are other ones probably tactically where people are more annoyed,
yes.
and probably
I will
more
say,
justifiably annoyed.
Yeah, I was going to say earlier today I had this conversation that I posed the question that I think goes along with this. Is Josh Wolf the best of the Berhalter school of coaches? Like it's a low bar. It's a low bar, but we're looking at Lucci, we're looking at Nico, we're looking at Josh, and like when you look at Lucci and Nico's teams and the talent on those teams and their positions relative to where Austin is and the talent on Austin's team, like it's hard not to say we've got the best of a bad bunch.
I remember, this reminds me when I was like 30, my dad told me, he said, I have 3 sisters, and he said, among my 4 children, like I'm the proudest of you, but that speaks more to your sister's failure than your own success. I think maybe this is where we are with Josh. Okay.
Yeah, agreed.
How about, I love this Trevor Allison question. If you're a mad scientist and could combine all the attributes of 2 people into a single person, which 2 would you choose for Austin FC? Any desired outcome to make the team better on the field, to make the pregame fits look better, to combine a funny guy with a handsome guy, etc.
Oh, this is a good one. So, do you have any that jump to mind right away?
I mean, I've been thinking about this a little bit since I wrote this in, and I have one, and so I want Julio Cascante with Heider Obrey on speed to solve the problem at the number 9.
Yes,
not to be a center back, but yeah, Julio Cascante just running past people and banging in goals nonstop and looking like he looks with that fit would be the best player in the world.
Yeah, so I wanted to combine Julio and Seba for almost exactly the same reasons, except also if he had Seba's wallet, can you imagine the outfits?
I love that.
So
Yeah.
like, not only would he had game-changing vision and technique, right? He'd be quicker. He'd be able to out-jump anyone in the world. Like, and the drip, Jeremiah. Like, oh my God. And like the personality, right? Like that's a captain's captain. If you've got Seba's work ethic and his drive in practice and like Julio's outspoken nature on the field, like that, can you ask for a better captain?
No, that would be incredible.
Also, we would then have a great attacking band. If Julio Cascante has the speed and vision to make those late arriving runs in the box, forget it.
Oh, it would be.
We could have
amazing.
2023 crosses and we would still be scoring goals.
Still be scoring all the time. Yeah. Let's go to another Trevor one. I'm interested in your take on this one. But basically, your thoughts on MLS going to a Apertura Clausura schedule to get a little more in line with the worldwide soccer calendar. Still do MLS as a Super Cup game. Yeah, I guess like a neutral site game of the winners of each section. How do we feel about that approach? I mean, the soccer fan of me finds that very interesting because you see it in other places, and you see it in Mexico and you see it in South America. Like American sports fan part of me trying to explain that to friends of mine who follow other American sports who are already very confused by this game would hate that.
Yeah. My two thoughts on it are because the top leagues in Europe don't do it, and that's where a lot of US sports fans get their like soccer teeth cut. It makes it a harder sell for those people, right? On the other hand, I'm sure if you grew up with Apertura Clausura and then you come and there's a single season, it really saps the like fun out of all the games that we're facing right now in the middle where nothing like really matters. I've got a lot of friends who don't tune into MLS until September because they know that up until then, it's mostly fighting for, where you're going to be starting your competition. And so, yeah, I don't know. I personally would love it because I think it's okay to be weird and different in this country for soccer, right? But also, I would feel a lot like one of those memes where it's the guy yelling at the girl either in the club or at the baseball game, and the girl just does not want to listen. That's how I would feel trying to explain Apertura Clausura to everyone that is not a soccer fan.
Yeah. So I guess ultimately we would love it, and we don't believe that it's a thing that should happen in the real world.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it, but also it would be so sweet if you did it. I do think there's a timing element that they can use Leagues Cup for to accomplish the same goal, right? If Leagues Cup starts at the beginning of July instead of the end of July, right? Now, essentially, you've divided your season in two, and it creates the same vibe, if not the same kind of excitement of having two sets of playoffs.
Yeah, and you could align your summer window to that too, right? Where as long as it's after June 30th, then you're still going to be a little bit past the midpoint of the season, but yeah, you get sort of that refresh, recharge, bring in new players, all that kind of stuff. That probably makes a difference. But I mean, to your point too, like ultimately with 9 teams making the playoffs, the first 25 games are like, let's settle who 1, 2, 3 is, and 12, 13, 14 is, and then everybody else in the middle is playing, and most of them are going to get in. So that would be a better approach.
All right, we got the next question here from next question here from ATX Bergkamp Lover 6969-420. Jeremiah, which is the best dinosaur and why?
I do not have a favorite dinosaur. I got to tell you, like as a kid, I read a lot of dinosaur books, and I think we can go ahead and we asked Mark Rogondino this question, and he said the Jurassic Park version of Velociraptor is
Like
the best
quickly
dinosaur
too, like really authoritatively. So
And-
that's a pretty good shout. He was brave to have like such a definitive answer.
And I would say maybe the Meg from Jason Statham's The Meg, but not. I don't know if it's like the Meg 2 or Meg 3, which was like a political thriller and sort of like commentary on environmentalism with not nearly enough like giant sharks killing people, but not that version of the Meg, but like maybe that one from a movie Dinosaurs. But do you have a favorite dinosaur, Mike?
Oh, yeah. It's the Ankylosaurus.
And why is that?
It's the one with the gigantic, like the gigantic club on the back of its tail.
Oh, yeah.
It looks the most like a Godzilla, like rival that isn't Godzilla. You know what I mean? Like this should be a Godzilla bad guy that swings its tail around and smashes buildings. And it just is like so, I think, underrated as a dinosaur. Because, you know, I think everybody likes the dinosaurs that have the big teeth and the sharp claws and stuff. But I want a dinosaur with bludgeoning damage, you know?
Smashing dinosaur. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the smashy boys. And so Ankylosaurus is mine. It's like peak Alex Ring, you know, just coming in there and bashing people, cleaning them out.
I love it. Have y'all seen Godzilla Minus Zero yet? Because I see it's on Netflix and we have not watched it.
We haven't watched it yet. I'm not ready to cry. I have heard that it is an emotional journey, and there will be a time shortly, I'm sure. But my emotions have been busy. So
Gotcha. Okay, well, let's go on to the last listener question here that we've got, which is actually a soccer related question, which is good. I feel like we have a few of those. And then we'll go to break. So it's Brian Hensley. What is your biggest hope for the team for the second half of the year and the biggest fear?
My biggest hope is that we sign an Ankylosaurus.
Of course. Like Air Bud.
Yeah. There's no rules that says an Ankylosaurus can't play midfield. But no, on a real note, I hope Dessler and Bukhari start on July 18th. That is my biggest hope for this season, is that they are ready. It maybe not start, but I guess on the 20th, right, is the first match.
Yeah, the 20th is Charlotte.
Have. Yep. Yeah. So maybe not start, but like give minutes in that match. That's what I really that's my biggest hope, because if they can come in right away and contribute, I think we can stay in it.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they get minutes in that match, they get some Leagues Cup. Everybody else has some time to recover. Yeah, I could see Austin staying in it. I mean, that's the good thing about what's happened so far to date, to this point in the season, is that Austin's still, 6th in the West? So they're right in the middle of the mix, despite the fact that it's a very thin roster. And I think they've definitely overperformed what everybody thought we would get out of them, which is going to lead to my biggest fear, is that what happened against RSL continues between now and July 20th, and Austin sinks to the bottom of the table. And then even when these guys get here,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. My biggest fear for this season, I'm trapped between two. So, Jeremiah, help me choose. Okay. Is my biggest fear that Seba's hamstring injury is long-term? Or is it that there are more secret auto trigger contracts?
I think the more secret auto contracts cause more long-term damage, right? Like the Seba thing, if it happens, you're like, oh, we brought some guys in, we're going to make some roster turnover. Like this year's sort of a wash and whatever. But yeah, some more wacky auto renewals would be a real problem.
Yeah. I can't decide which is worse, because like I do think if Bukhari and Dessler come in, that like we've got a team that can make a decent play in the playoffs. If Seba's out, forget it. And so it's tough to be like, yeah, I'm giving up on this season with the hope that our contract situation isn't screwed for 2025. But yeah, we'll go with the auto triggers because that makes me feel like I'm being more hopeful about Seba.
Okay, I like that too. Let's all be hopeful about Seba. All right, you want to take another break, and then we'll do Austin FC news and preview the Rabbits match, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Moon Tower Soccer's premier sponsor is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space, from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities, but only advertises on this podcast because it's the home of the 2-time reigning Copa Tejas champions, which is the most important trophy in professional sports. Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at mwcllc.com for more information. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify has been the home of fee-free checking since 2022. Their fee-free checking accounts come with zero overdraft fees or minimum balances. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending.
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more and to register for free parking at the Amplify Esperanza branch on game day, go to www.goamplify.com/moontower-soccer.
Moon Tower Soccer is also brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. The Sage Wilson team is made up of Austin experts who are client-focused and have over 30 years of combined real estate experience. Our friends at Sage Wilson Realty are giving away 2 tickets to an upcoming match, so fill out the form in the show notes or on the website for your chance to win.
If you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com. Did I get every URL this time?
You did.
Let's go.
You did. You didn't add the S in though for
they're all
for
secure,
many of them.
trust me.
For many of them, they're all secure. These are very credible companies.
Yeah. They wouldn't do business with the likes of us if they weren't.
Of course.
Jeremiah, do you want to talk about some Austin FC news?
Let's talk about some Austin FC news.
I am so glad that you sent me this Matthew Doyle article of reviewing every team halfway through 2024. He gave out mid-season grades for teams. Jeremiah, what did you think of his read on Austin FC?
Well, I would have trouble disagreeing with it. So the overall grade's a B-. He does say, well, so what's gone right? It feels like a redux of 2 years ago when every conceivable bounce went right. I don't know that I agree with that part of it, but I would say that Austin's had a year that's better than everybody thought so far, and that Austin is overperforming underlying numbers, which is true of the 2022 season, but I would say it's not quite at the same level so far this year.
Yeah, I think generally it's like it's one of those situations where the like technically correct is the best kind of correct. It feels applicable here, where yes, it's been pretty good so far. We're 6th in the West on points, 7th on points per game. That's better than we could have hoped for. That's all true. I remember when we did our live show at Amplify, I had said that 6th was the absolute peak of our team's like best possible case scenario, including buying players in the summer window. And I remember you thought that was crazy. And here we are.
That is possible. Here we are.
I'm
Hey, Landon, I believe, was the most negative out of all three of us, and it doesn't really matter. He's not here to defend himself. But
Yeah, don't
you're
check
right.
the tape, but Landon really hated it. He was one of those spoon contender types.
But yeah, I think Austin's we've just talked about this in the listener questions. Austin's in a better spot than a lot of folks thought they would be, and there's reason to believe that there's some kind of upside. We were just talking about the schedule for June and that being a worry for me. And there's a note in this article that 4 of the next 5 are against playoff teams. So it's sort of the time for Austin to be tested, and it's the time where Austin's going to be tested with missing a few key players in an already thin roster. So
yeah,
hey, if Austin hangs on now, we'll be in great shape.
Yeah, I think that's the piece that is that technically correct, right? Yes, 4 out of the next 5 are against playoff teams. And because we're missing Julio, because we're missing Danny, because Seba's been out injured, who knows how he's feeling now, right? There's a lot of question marks that I don't think these next matches necessarily say who this team is. I think we won't know who this team is until after Leagues Cup. And that's so long from now. And there's not a lot of games left after that, right? So I'm hopeful that more of this magic keeps kind of existing here for us, but we'll see.
Yeah, and as sports fans, we're always so good about thinking long term and not overreacting to everything in the moment. Let's talk about some guys on international duty, because I remember it was the first year Austin had, I believe, nobody on international duty. And I think a lot of people in Columbus and Frisco particularly rather delighted in that fact that Austin was the only team without it. But there's several players now, both from the first team and the second team, that have either participated in friendlies or will be participating in upcoming matches. So I think first, Julio Cascante goes 90 in both of his games, 4-0 win over St. Kitts and Nevis, and a 3-0 win over Grenada, and playing in a back 3 in that one. I think he was just a traditional center back in the first one, back 3 that one. So 7-0 win. Did you watch any highlights of him or anything?
I wasn't able to find any in my brief moments of lucidity here this morning. But I do think I think it is always refreshing when Julio is able to be the ball playing center back and not necessarily the defending center back. And so I am curious to go back and watch some of these highlights and see if he's got any of those classic, weirdly effective line breaking passes. And so I think that'll be fun to look at those highlights. Our new player, Osman, our new player, Osman Bukhari, was an unused sub in both of the Ghana matches. I did watch these, hoping to see him get on the field, and instead I just heard a lot of vuvuzelas and, a surprisingly vulnerable Ghana team, which I am not used to. Usually Ghana is that bugbear for the US, and so to see them have to pull out some kind of late miracles in some of these games and barely hold on, just a different look. So
it's probably because they didn't let Bukhari play.
Yeah, obviously they didn't want to they didn't want to crush these guys too bad, and I respect that. Sportsmanship is important.
It is. We went to Austin FC 2-player Bobo Boronga started the qualifier against Algeria. I think this was earlier today. Played 88 minutes, got a yellow card. They lost 2-1. According to FOTMob, he wasn't very good, and that's basically all I have to say about
then he's
that
trash.
one.
Get rid of him.
Yeah.
No, we love Bobo, so we can't wait to have him back. Austin FC 2 with the same sort of depth problems that Austin FC 1 have. So, yeah. Leo Weisenin was an unused sub in a 4-2 loss to Portugal, and then went a full 90 in a 2-2 draw versus Scotland. Jeremiah, in the notes here, you have at right back ?
That's
Where
because
did that?
That's where FOTMob had him listed is at right back, and I
Right.
couldn't find any highlights. I did not find any highlights of it, so that's why I wrote the question mark and hope that you would have done some further research to see
Yeah.
whether that was true or not.
So I did, because of the question mark. I didn't want us to come into this not knowing anything with Landon gone. I wanted us to still be able to be respectable podcasters. And I watched some highlights, and every single highlight that he was featured in, he was playing in the middle of that back line as a center back. So playing where he belongs in a back four, but didn't help them not give up a couple of goals. That said, he wasn't at fault. So
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the guys we didn't see. So Danny, there were no Venezuela friendlies, which seems strange. But Danny did not play in this round, but we know we'll be missing him for a few games. And then we had a question like Rubio, because they put out like a
he was on a
55-person preliminary roster with 15 forwards and 6 goalkeepers. He did not make the final group.
Yeah, he was on an NFL preseason squad of of soccer players here, and when that got whittled down to an actual soccer team, we will not be missing him for 4 games coming up, which is crucial.
It's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
One other league news we got was we had the top 25 roster, a jersey sold. So not surprisingly, Lionel Messi number 1, Luis Suarez number 2. Yeah, who saw that coming?
Crazy.
I'm surprised that so number 1 is Leo Messi Inter Miami. I'm surprised that number 2 is not like Leo Messi FC Cincinnati, or because I've seen the kids. I've seen the kids in the Messi Austin FC jerseys. I don't know how they count those.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a different stat. But
it's gotta be.
Looking at this list, was there anyone that jumped out on this top 25 that surprised you?
I think placement-wise, that Pedro de la Vega from Seattle being number 6 overall, just compared to ahead of Jordan Morris from Seattle, who's like a big name. I mean, however he's doing,
right? Ahead
of Mukhtar, ahead of Gimakis, ahead of Joe Paulo. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised how high he was. How about you?
Yeah, I was shocked to see Pedro de la Vega at 6, even on the list at all. I have I get that the Seattle kit, they love it. They love that new shirt so much in Seattle. So I understand everybody rushing out to get one. I am surprised that it didn't go to some of these Seattle lifers, right?
Yeah, I agree. And then were you surprised to not see any Austin players in the top 25?
I was not surprised to see no Austin player in the top 25. I think this year's shirt is great, but I don't think it is a bestseller, and I don't think I don't think there are enough people without Sebastian Driussi jerseys who need one
to make up for it.
Yeah. I think we need another gigantic star to join our team. We'll see if Bukhari jerseys become the 2025 hottest selling jersey.
Yeah, I have to imagine in 22, I'm almost certain to remember that Driussi was on this list.
Yes,
new guy, killing it. Austin second in the West, so that's what one would love to see again. And then we get this other news that Vincent Janssen is in Austin. Could that mean something? And I think you had done some research before, and then I asked you to talk about why it would be a bad idea, and then you wrote all soccer stuff, or I guess why. So why should we expect him to be here first, and then let's talk about the soccer stuff as if it was a reality.
Yeah. So the first question was, why is he here? And the last time Austin was linked with Vincent Janssen, so I went down a rabbit hole. Turns out his girlfriend at the time lived or was from Austin. Then they got married once he moved. So he moved to Monterrey from Tottenham instead of moving to Austin. And so he was playing for Monterrey for 3 years. And in that time, he was in Austin a lot. And so there were still rumors that he was going to join Austin FC. Turns out he was here a lot because he was here with his girlfriend who became his wife, and they got married in Austin, and he's been to ACL, and he's done a lot of Austin things, right? Like, it seems to me like this is a guy who on his weekends off from soccer comes up to get some torchies and, like, check out what's new at Waterloo. Like, he seems like an Austin guy. And so I think that's what's happening. If I had to guess, that he's just here kicking around, maybe he's going to Barton Springs to hang out, just a dude who loves the vibes. Does that
the dude who loves the I think that's got to be the real story. That's got to be the real story. But yeah, let's go to the soccer stuff. So if this was a real rumor, I mean, do you pull the trigger on him as probably a designated player?
He would have to be a designated player. He'd have to be, right?
Yeah, not probably. Yeah, he would have to be.
Like, he was sold to Monterrey for £10 million, and then he went to Royal Antwerp for a whole bunch of money as well. And so he would have to come here on a pretty big number, at least for a transfer fee, if not a salary as well. And like, I mean, he's a guy who this season put up 17 goals and 6 assists in all competitions in the Belgian league. The year before, he put up 21 goals and 6 assists. So we're looking at a guy who's at like he contributes to a goal every other game this year. And like, that's really good production to try and buy. And so what I noticed, though, is that he has the same kind of trajectory at Monterrey, where his first season there, he put up almost 0.73 goals and assists per 90. His second season, 0.65, and then his third season, 0.23. So like, he really fell off hard in Monterrey. And then in Belgium, 0.70 goals and assists per 90, 0.55 this year. What might happen next year, right? And so it seems like a guy who comes in hot his first year and then starts to cool down a little bit. And if we're going to pay somebody DP money, we can't have like a time bomb on our hands,
We cannot afford to do that again, right? And there's an age thing too. So, okay.
He really reminds me a lot of Rogondino, honestly. Like, in that ability to convince you with your eyes that this is a good player who has the skills and who can do the things and just hasn't put it all together yet. But then you look at like what he actually does and you're like, maybe not.
Well, let's just roll into the Colorado Rapids preview. We're happy to be joined by Mark Rogondino, who will be calling the Austin match in Colorado this weekend, along with Heath Pierce, and has also taken time out of his busy dad schedule to join us. So thanks a lot for the time, Mark.
Yeah, anytime, guys. It's always good not just to hop on with you guys, but put a name to a face with you guys, and then the opportunity to talk and chat MLS, specifically Austin. I'm always down for it.
Yeah, you were just telling us before we started, you had a little weekend off, just like the teams, and so everybody should be coming into the weekend feeling pretty refreshed, feeling pretty ready to go, right?
Batteries are 1,000% recharged. Was my first weekend off since late February, since week 1 of the season. Jeez. So it was much needed. I actually escaped with 3 other my buddies out to 105-degree Palm Springs desert, and we played a couple of matches and might have wagered $1 or $2 with some cold beverages. And for me, although it was missed my family for a couple of days, I mean, that's still a great way to just kind of recharge. And now I'm set and ready beginning this weekend.
Nice. Yeah. Jeremiah, are you making it out to Colorado this year?
I'm not making it out to Colorado this year, and I'm kind of disappointed because I was actually in Commerce City, I think a week ago, and one of my great soccer experiences of my life was getting to go on the road and be with those 250 other people in Austin when Austin FC won their first ever match in Colorado, and Diego scored that goal. So like, it's gonna be sad not to make it. How about you? Are you going, Mike?
We are this year, yeah. This will be our first trip out to Den Verde, as we call it here in Austin. I heard the traveling contingent is up to about 120 people for the weekend. So should be decent numbers from the Austin side anyway this year.
No, is that like a flying thing? Is that a driving thing? How do you plan to get from Austin, Texas to Denver, Colorado, and ultimately Commerce City?
Yeah, most of us end up driving out, and then our supporters groups that work in Austin here are logistical wizards. Friend of the show, Seth Rao, is like always figuring out the best way to get massive numbers of people by bus from downtown Denver hotels to wherever matches end up being. So I'm putting my faith in the community this weekend, Mark.
Well, I mean,
if I need a ride, I'll give you a call.
I might just need one back to the downtown area after the game. I might take you up on that. But I think we're going to be in store for good weather. I think we're going to be in store for two teams that are really hungry to try and kickstart their season. I think both teams have had those little minuscule, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, right, where they get good results, and all of a sudden, having covered both of them, all of a sudden I think, all right, this is where this team is going to start to take off. They're going to start to climb up the standings, but then all of a sudden the shoe drops on the other foot, and both of these teams we've seen stumble as of recent times too, right? So I think that makes this matchup even that much more entertaining and exciting. And I think both teams are going to try and get after it, right? I know Austin doesn't always like to create as many chances as probably their fan base wants to, but they are efficient when they do create their chances. So, yeah, I think we're in store for a good matchup out of the Dick's Sporting Goods Park.
Yeah, I think I'd like to go back and set the stage a little bit with Colorado, just for the folks that listen to that listen to the show, maybe aren't as familiar with them. So Colorado was 14th in the West last year, made some huge offseason moves, right? And I'd love to get your take on these. So Jordy Mihalovich, Zach Steffen, and Sam Vines in, Jack Price, Danny Wilson, William Yarbrough, and Austin's own Diego Rubio now out. I mean, it's a big overhaul during the offseason. Like, how does a club sort of deal with that? And is part of Colorado's like issues this year just not having had time to like integrate all these changes in the roster?
Well, I think, and one name he didn't mention there, which to me I include as a new change, is Rafael Navajo, the number 9, who's been really good this year. Remember, I think he only played 9 games last year after he came over late in the summertime, and so maybe 10 games. But he's a beast. He's a good number 9. He does a lot of the work, and so I think that has been able to get acclimated. But when you talk about those names you did mention, if you think about it, we're talking about right up the spine of a team, right? So you're talking about a very good central midfielder, a very accomplished and good goalkeeper, and those are two pieces right there that you really can start with, Connor Ronan has come back into the fold off injury. He was the guy that was their most consistent player a season ago. And so, yeah, I think the one area I look at, though, is Maxu, second year in the league. I think he's adjusted too as well. And but the question always is like, who plays next to him, and then the other one is Keegan Rosenberry on the right. And then you have Cole Bassett, who has all of a sudden found his form again, playing in a different role, less as a number 10, more as a pivot and a number 6. And he's embraced that role. And I think that's a huge thing for them too.
Yeah, I thought when we saw all these changes in the offseason and then we saw Chris Armas come in, I was expecting more from Colorado, I think, than we've seen so far this year. I thought, here's a guy with a system and a team that is basically built to do exactly that, right? But it seems like things just haven't quite clicked yet. Is this like, to Jeremiah's point, is it a reps thing, or is it is it one of those situations that Austin faced where they got a little bit better, but the rest of the conference got like a lot better over the offseason? Is it one of those things? Or?
Well, I will say this. I think that change does take time, but number 2, I think that Colorado is a team that can make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they're on the outside looking in, I think, as of right now. But I think that they're a team that, yes, they have the talent. If they can, it's like anything, right? I mean, one of the biggest things covering Austin the last 3 weeks, Josh Wolf continues to hammer home, is he's like, my biggest concern is staying healthy all the way through until the end of October with the pieces that I have, right? And we already just saw it 2 weeks ago with Driussi going down. So, and that's the big concern for any club, right? Is do you have enough depth when you add in the games of Leagues Cup? And can you stay healthy over the course of a 34-game regular season? Then you add in, if your team plays a couple of Open Cup games, how deep you go into Leagues Cup, and then obviously how deep of a run you can make in the MLS Cup playoff picture. So health for Colorado is going to be a big concern. But, I mean, they have the pieces, and they have the depth, right? Using, say, for example, in their wingers, they can use Cabral on one side, Harris on one side, Fernandez on one side. They have options depending on the opponent they're playing and depending if they need to just spice it up after the 60th minute to try and bring in some fresh legs to run at you, right? Because Cabral doesn't start all the time. Harris doesn't start all the time, and neither does Fernandez. Those are their three wingers, and they just Armas figures out where he's going to plug them in and where he's going to use them. I mean, Navajo didn't even start their last game 2 weeks ago, and then he came in as a substitute. So he is definitely squad rotation right now in the busy, cluttered fixture schedule. But I think that they're a team that will find their way, and we'll have a good run, maybe a unbeaten in 4 or 5 matches where you win 2 or 3 and maybe draw another one, but you pick up a lot of points real quick in this league, and you're going to catapult yourself up the standings for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned you were on the call for the Austin game against Real Salt Lake, which is probably the worst half of soccer I've seen Austin play all year long.
Yeah, the notes here say unforgettable performance for the wrong reasons.
You know what? And I hate to say it, but I had a feeling that might turn out that way. And I only say that because RSL is on one of the most incredible runs we've seen by any team in years. And then having the injury to Seba and not being able to have him, I immediately wondered, well, he's not necessarily the guy that always has to score all the goals. But he certainly, if he's not going to score, he has to be the guy that creates the goals. And so with him not in the lineup, and then what you had Jan Komanic playing in more of like an advanced wing position up there, which he had never done. I know he can do it, but he had not done that all season. So you have another guy playing out of place, right? Because of squad rotation, who was it? Heinz Ike started on the bench after he just played really good the last 2 weeks, 2 games before that. And so when Arango and RSL got off to that start, and I tell you, that stadium absolutely erupted, sold out. It was just, I was like, this could be, we talked about it, Heath and I, on the broadcast when it became 2-0. And I said, hey, this is critical moments right here. You can't let this get away from you right now in the next few minutes. And what happened? Bang, a third, bang, a fourth. And that's almost impossible in any league to recover from.
Was there anything in that match that maybe, our fans didn't see that might actually be a positive that we can take out of that from your perspective?
Two things. That you got Gallagher back in, right? Because I think he's a needed piece. He hasn't found that form that he was really so good last year in 2023. Part of that is because of injury, obviously, but he got off to such a great start last year, right? And he was an all-star last season. He really played well from a right back role. So that would be one. You got him back into the fold. You got minutes out of him. Number 2 would be Danny Pereira. He played in a more advanced role as more of a Sebastian Driussi number 10 role than his customary number 6 sitting in front of the back 4, allowing him to get further up the field and use some of the creative juices that he had as a collegiate player, which made him the number 1 pick overall. So I think that now Josh knows that he can thrust him a little further forward up the field, let Alex Ring stay home and try and deputize, win that ball first, then get it into a player like Pereira and get further up the field. Because he is crafty. He's got a very good engine, and he's got a good soccer IQ, if you ask me. And does he get he's young, so does he get a little bit, like sometimes I saw his body language the last few times I've seen Austin, and I'm thinking, you don't act like that. Like the ball didn't come his way, and you could see him get frustrated, right? And I understand that's passion, but he has to learn how to channel that passion in the right way as a younger player in this league, because the last thing he wants to do is have his other teammates think that he's blaming them, and then they come back at him, and it just starts you down a whole cycle. No Austin fan wants to see that. So, but I do think that playing him in a more advanced position as more of a 10 and further up the field, I thought that was positive for Los Verdes.
We'll take it, man. We'll take anything. And he also picked up his fifth. He picked up his fifth yellow, so now he's going to be both out for
Colorado.
Copa America, and he gets he's in training with Venezuela, right? So he won't be playing against Colorado anyhow, and so it's like the middle of July before we get him back. Because you see a lot of the league. One of the things that you mentioned was how different Austin looks when Driussi is out. It seems like that Austin might be the team most dependent on one player in the whole league, or if not near the top of it. Like, is that your perspective too? That's what it seems like from within, from locally.
Well, another team I would point to that's very much like that, but is having a ton of success is the Galaxy. They're very much relying on Ricky Pooch. I mean, Galaxy fans would hate to think what they look like, especially going forward, if they didn't have him, right? He is the straw that stirs the drink, as I sometimes say. And I think Driussi is that too. But it's also, right, it's the mentality of, hey, this is our captain. You know, he's stepping out on the field with us. If something's going wrong, all eyes look to him, right? That's not to say they don't look to Ring as well, or even Diego Rubio. Josh Wolf has been super complimentary of Rubio and how he's come in and made a difference in this team. And that's why we see an interesting story coming into this weekend too, right? This is going to be, I don't know how the Rapids fans are going to receive him. I think what did I call last year? Last year I called Diego Rubio going to Sporting Kansas City and scoring the game winner late in the second half when the Rapids got one of their first wins of the year at Sporting Kansas City, and he was on fire and he was running all over the stadium after he scored that goal. So I would imagine if he finds the net in this one, and you guys know the soccer tradition, right? Not too much celebration, but I would bet you that if he scores one, you're going to see some fire from the Chilean.
Yeah, one of our favorite things, I think, has been Diego Rubio's energy. He does not seem like the kind of guy who would not celebrate against a former team.
Right.
Especially a former team who, there might be a perception of a slight, right? Forget it.
Yeah.
I was going to go to the Colorado's recent form.
Yeah.
So 3 losses and a draw in the last 4, and they're giving up a ton of goals. I guess the question is there something wrong with Zach Steffen? I think there's no doubt that he's been something of a disappointment so far halfway through the first season back in MLS.
The insight I can give you to that is the easy, simple answer is no, there's nothing wrong with Zach Steffen. But Chris Armas would be first to tell you they changed the way that they defend. And some of their defenders are not comfortable with how they have changed. A lot of Andreas Maxu, right? He's a guy that he's used to having to stay with a man going in and out of a space and following him to certain places. But that's not necessarily how Armas wants his team to defend. He wants them to be aware of where guys are, but he also wants them to be aware that I can come off this guy and I can get over into this space over here to defend this space over here. And then there's a transition, a trickle down effect where the guy behind him needs to slide in some in the back. So the one ball that you get beat with is the big ball over the top. But that ball takes so long to get there, you have time to transition again and slide yourself back over. So I know that some of those conversations we've had in the past, the comfortability of some of his defenders, and I'm not saying Maxu's the only guy, but he was an example that stood out for me. And them getting comfortable with how he wants them to operate back there, I think, again, has been a learning curve. Back to the original question Mike had about, how is this team coming along? How is the chemistry? How are they finding their learning curve here in 2024?
Yeah, and I know, there's a lot of instability, not instability, but changes on the back line for Colorado, right? You were seeing a lot of games where Moise Bombito is getting to play and he's looking really good. And so is it similar to the situation that Austin had in 2023, where when you have 8 different guys in the back line between 2 matches, right? Building up that rapport and that chemistry isn't happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for consistency for any team, right? The ability to put out the same 11 and even smaller scope, to ability to put out the same 4 a number of times in a row, so that those guys develop chemistry and those guys have an understanding of what each other likes to do. There's a lot to be said for that. I've probably called at least 3 Colorado games this year, and I can tell you when they're buzzing and they're clicking, going forward, they're as dangerous as anybody in this league. I mean, they can get hot, and they will start pinging the ball, and the ball will move very quickly. Mihailovic is involved in a lot of it. He's very creative, as we know. I mean, that's a guy who had 17, 19 assists in a season, I think, before he left, when his last year with Montreal before he left to go overseas. And Navajo, like I said, they love him so much because of all the hard work. What he does as a number 9 doesn't show up in the stat sheet. Yes, he scored goals this year, but it doesn't show up in the stat sheet how much he pressures the ball when the other team has it across their back forward, how much he closes space, how much he tilts and unbalances one side of the field. If you watch him, and if he starts this week, if you watch him and how much he does defensively as a 9, it is ideal. And a lot of teams don't get that out of their star number 9.
Well, Mark, I think I was reading through your bio.
No.
You do. No, it's like soccer broadcaster, sports anchor in LA. I don't know. You did some like VR stuff for the NBA and golf and appearance. I don't know how you do it all, but like if people want to like find you and find your work. Oh, and you're on TV like regularly. How can people find you and engage with you? And do you have any closing thoughts for us?
Okay. Oh, that's a lot of good questions right there, Jeremiah. That's a lot. Instagram is The Real Rogo. The NBA VR stuff was for 7 seasons. I called NBA games for the NBA's virtual reality game of the week. So kind of like the Apple package, any 2 teams, any given weekend, any given weeknight. Got to partner with some great guys, names you guys probably know, Bruce Bowen, Richard Jefferson, Nate Robinson. Yeah, so a lot of really good guys, had a lot of fun and enjoyed that a lot. I got to call 4 NBA finals, which was a ton of fun. And my closing thought would be Austin. You know, I feel like this is a crucial game for them. They've got to find a way to get themselves on track. I don't know. I haven't had a call yet this week with Josh, but I'm assuming this break came at exactly the right time, especially when you consider how it unfolded 2 weeks ago against RSL. They haven't been great on the road, but sometimes teams get an opportunity to get away from it all and go away on the road, and maybe Colorado's certainly an opportunity, right? It's a lot different going to Colorado than it is, say, going to LAFC or going to FC Cincinnati. And that's not to take anything away from Colorado, but as we've just discussed, right, they're not in the top 5 in MLS right now, but they're a team that's trying to make some noise in that middle chunk of teams around the league. So, and then last thing I would say to your fans, I love coming to your town. I love Q2 Stadium. I've done, I think, 3 games there. From the production people that are there to the fans and their passion, I thoroughly enjoy it. And so hopefully I get a chance to come out later this season and then see you guys in person. And I hope I see Mike this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. We won't see Julio Cascante. We won't see Danny Pereira. There's a handful of folks who are going to be missing from the Austin lineup for Copa America stuff. But you know, we'll try and will them on anyway.
That's right.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
All right. We want to thank Mark Rogondino again for his time. Really fun dude to interview. Really like. Anyone who says so many nice things about Austin always, you know, they move up in my rankings.
He knows his audience.
Yeah. Stop. But go on. So, Jeremiah, I'm going to put you on the spot here. What do you think is going to happen this weekend?
Oh gosh, what I think is going to happen? I think Austin's going to lose this weekend on the road.
Do you?
I think it's
against Colorado.
Against Colorado. Yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-0. Austin plays this like cynical on the road, way that they've played. But like ultimately, Colorado, I think they're 7th in the league in goals. Like there's some attacking talent that can expose gaps in Austin FC's defense, and I think they will do that once. And I think I will be sad and frustrated by that. But I hope you have a good time, and I'm wrong.
Yeah, because of that, I'm going to go the opposite because I'm going to be there, and I'm hoping for a 3-0 win, and it's just all Rocky Mountain high vibes, you know? I hope everybody's having a good time. I hope everything is going our way. I hope to hear a lot of Mateo Clark playing trumpet.
So that would be awesome.
Awesome. Well, do you want to do our little closing bit here?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Hopefully Landon does this. Hopefully I can remember it as if I'm not reading it off a script. I should remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to continue the soccer conversation, check me out at jbilling_ATX. Check everywhere we do the things. Mike at
Future X Skeleton. And then, of course, Moon Tower Soccer everywhere, including TikTok now, right?
Yes, including TikTok now, which is, surprisingly, we've got a surprisingly, large, but yeah, more views than I expected us to get on TikTok. I will say that so far.
Jeremiah's doing dances, y'all. Check it out.
Yeah, sign up for the Patreon.
Yeah, I was gonna say sign up for that Patreon because the socks and the cards are shipping. People are getting them. They are making me jealous that my package hasn't come in yet. But
it's fine.
That's okay. We will continue to wait in this household. It is awesome stuff. So definitely sign up at Moontower, patreon.com/Moontower Soccer.
And that reminds me, I had this really dumb idea that I will tell you off air, or I'll text you about Patreon social media content, but it involves y'all needing to have your socks before we can pull it off. So hopefully they will come in and we will do this before Landon gets back in control of the social media account. So look forward to that. As always, check out our friend Phil West Substack. You get 20% off at verdeallday.substack.com/Moontower. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week. The two of us will be back next week, correct?
That's right. With a review of the Colorado match, a preview of the LAFC and Minnesota United matches, and whatever happens in Austin FC news between now and then. Until then, I'm Mike Cragnola.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
And we'll catch you next time.
Thank for nothing, see you never.
La gente. Oh my God.